Chapter 17, Apply the Custom Template to the Corridor. Okay, so in the previous chapter, chapter 16, we created a custom template from scratch or using IDOT components, and now we are going to apply that to the corridor just like we did in a previous chapter where we just took an IDOT created template and we just applied it to the corridor. So this is, same concept. The difference is here we're actually going to be applying a template to a corridor after the corridor had already been created, where I believe with the IDOT one we did it all at the same time. So you can do it either way. In this case, we're going to add the template to the corridor kind of after the fact, after the corridor had already been created. Okay, so we should be sitting in the corridor file. You should still have your corridor plotted in your design file. If not, go ahead and replace that corridor. You can review the previous video if need be, if you deleted your corridor. And now once this chapter assumes that your corridor has been placed, which is actually a very simple process, really. New corridor, and you just apply it to an alignment. Okay, so let's go ahead and click the template button, and I'm still sitting here at the location where that template is that we created. If not, path out to it, as you know. Go to project templates and then go to that final custom template that we created, which was based off of the typical section. And I named mine County Highway Left and Right. I'm sure you named yours something very similar to it. So we're ready to apply the template to the corridor. So I'm going to close that out. And the way that you apply a template after the fact is we click on New Template Drop. And again, that's under the Corridors tab. And we locate the corridor. Just click on that. And then it tries to guess what corridor you're going to use. That doesn't always work. I've noticed that to get you probably want that full path, and so I usually click these dots over here on the right and just path out to it myself just to make sure I got the right one. And then see there, you see the full path in the name, so I know it's going to work. So I data point to accept, and then I'm going to apply this template against the entire corridor. Now I can do that two different ways. I can either move my mouse over kind of dynamically and just data point over there. Sometimes you'll be zoomed in and you'll have this really long corridor and you're not even seeing the beginning necessarily. So if you're looking at that message on the cursor, it says you can also click the Alt button, and notice that takes you that locks you right at the start. That's one way of doing it. And the same with the end. You can either go down to the end and accept it, or I can hit that Alt button and it'll grab the end of the alignment. Either one. Let's see. Alt. There we go. And then because I'm using that feature definition of design on this corridor, it's by default giving me a drop interval increment of 10, which is fine. I accept it, and there it goes. And so you might be looking at the end and you say, well, wait a minute. Why does the corridor or the template appear to be stopping short? It's not going all the way to the end. Well, the reason for that is, although the alignment is that long, the proposed profile actually ended back here. So it's not going to hurt anything to leave this, but if you wanted to, you could take and move the template, drop back to the same length as our profile, because you can't really go beyond that, right? So I'll just do that. Okay, so there's our profile. So let's see what we ended up with. I'm going to hold my right mouse button down, view, 3D, and I'm looking at both here. Remember, click at the top, make that ribbon dark blue, rotate, snap to something, and we can take a look. And keep in mind this is using a standard ditch, and that's where you need to start. Also, you might not be able to tell it from this yet, but also there's no, the curve is not super elevated yet. It's we've not done that yet. All we've done is we applied that custom template, and so all it knows at this point is that the cross slope is 2%. I do see some sort of problem with this. We'll have to take a look at this. Interesting. It looks to me like the left side's trying to connect up with the right side. I'll have to see what's causing that issue. It's just at the very beginning there, it appears, for some reason. Not sure what the deal is there. We will figure that out. Another possible problem I'm seeing, it doesn't look to me like the shoulder is on. I'm not seeing the shoulder for some reason. That could be back from when we were working on the IDOT template and we were working in the open road standards. We may have turned that mesh off. Let's check that. So I'm going to go to my feature definitions, my mesh, roadway. Nope, ag shoulder is turned on. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on there. Or maybe it was my template drop. Or maybe I never did. Oh, that's what it is. When I created that template drop, I did not add in the ag shoulder. Well, this is all real life. This is typical things that happen. So rather than start over on this video like I've done so far, I'm going to say, oh, yeah, we need to fix that, right? And so at this point, you have two options in how you go about fixing that. You could go over to this template drop, and that's going to be located in the Open Roads model. And I could edit the template drop. Remember, that's like that's not that external ITL. When we apply a template drop, that template drop is actually part of this, DGN now. Yeah, I did. That's interesting. I did not pay attention to my typical section in that last chapter, and I did not do the ag wedge. But we will add it now. So like I'm saying, I could either go in, I could edit this template drop right here. Now the only problem with that is that it's only going to edit this template within the design file. That's fine. You could do that here, perfectly fine. Like I was saying before, personally, I prefer to go back to my template library, make the change there, and then sync this up. So I'm going to cancel out, and instead I'm going to go back into my regular template library, and I'm going to zoom in to this area here. And I need to insert that ag wedge now. So let's go. I'm going to double click. HMA right. Actually, it merged the points. I think what I'm going to do here is there may be a more efficient way, but I'm just going to delete these components because I can put them back really quick. And for starters, I think what I probably should have done is, if I look at the width here on my ag base, in fact, I think I mentioned this in the last chapter, that it's actually 13 feet wide. So let's go ahead and take, in this case, the points were not merged, so I've got my separate ag base top here. I'm going to select that, and on the horizontal, instead of going from that ag wedge right there, I think what I'm going to do instead is just say from the center line I want to be over 13 feet. And then for my vertical, let's go vertical offset, and I think what we will do here is identify this center line binder bottom, and then we'll identify this point at the edge of pavement at the bottom of the binder. Let's see that horizontal change. I want to get that back to 13. The offset should be 0 here. So take a look at what I've got under constraints. Hit apply. There, and that's what I want. I want the ag base to be out the 13 feet wide, and then we're going to fill in this gap here with an ag wedge. So let's go back to our IDOT standards. Let's go to components and shoulders and aggregate, and ag shoulder attached to HMA. That works. So and we'll modify it afterwards, but we can just start with that component. That would be fine. We'll just modify it. And so let's go ahead and let's double click on this, the bottom of this shoulder right here. We can change that to horizontal, vertical. Let's identify that from this edge of this wedge, the bottom edge of wedge right there. Make that 0, 0. And what else do we need to change? We're not going to need this point right here, so I think I'll just delete it. Let's give an extra point. Let's delete that, and then let's take this point and horizontal, vertical, and now let's select the edge of this, the top of this base, ag base. Set that to 0 and 0. And then we have one final point. So we're going to double click on that edge of ag shoulder. And so now that slope, we don't know what that slope is. It's not really a standard slope necessarily. It could vary some. Really, that's defined, and I probably should have added that to this typical section, but generally, like with an ag wedge, you don't show it going down to nothing. You show it going down to 1 inch. And that's what we'll do here. So how can we do that? Well, we can define that top of ag shoulder as horizontally. We'll define it from the edge of the base course. And vertically, we will also define that from the edge of the base course, but we'll just go up 1 inch. So there I can do a 1 divided by 12. Horizontally, that should be set to 0. And there we go. That's exactly what our ag wedge should look like. Now I could go through all those steps on the right side. Well, actually, before we get to that, let's why don't we replace that ditch? We'll finish off this side. And so I'm going to go back to the IDOT components. What type of component? That would be an end condition component, right? Cut slope, ditches, 2-foot ditch bottom with the earth shoulder, a 1 to 3 slope. And this is what I should have done the first time. I'm going to drop at the edge of the ag shoulder. We said that we do not need the topsoil, so I'm just going to right click, delete component. And we said we do want to go ahead and keep both of those solutions with the fill section or the cut section. And I think we changed the ditch bottom to the depth to 2 foot. We can do that here also. Like I said, we're not going to end up using it on this project because we're going to have a special ditch the whole way. And I think the one other thing that we had to go back and change was the 6% to 10%. And that was it. Okay, I think let me do a save at this point. And then the fastest way to get the other side to be the same really is just to go delete components and just get rid of everything on the left. And it might take sometimes with these, with deleting, you can do something like this. See how that quickly got rid of everything? And now if I do a save, it's just that right side. So let's go back and create a new template drop. I'm going to delete that county highway, and it's this one that we saved it as that. I'm going to create a new template drop, and I like that first name. I use county highway. I'm going to use that. So now I've got that blank template. So I guess this is, in a sense, it's kind of a refresher, I guess, right? So now I grab the template, half the template that I just saved. But what do we need to do first? Make sure apply affixes is set. Make sure that your steps are set to 0.1.1. And then I'm going to go back. I'm going to drag it in. Make sure mirror is turned on. I will drop it. There, now we've got the template that we wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And so now, remember the name, County Highway, that's what we ended up saving as the complete one. You could decide to keep or get rid of that last one or rename it. I think being as it was just the right side, I'll just rename that, say like right only for maybe a future use, say for instance. Okay, so now I'm going to save this and close out. I'm going to go back to that corridor file, and now I'm going to replace the template with that new one I just created. And the way that we can do that, a couple different ways. I could delete the template and just replace it if I wanted to. While we're here, I could show you something we haven't looked at yet, but we'll be using this in the future. And this is another way of replacing template drops. And this is, see this bucket right here? It's called Corridor Objects. Probably not a bad time to first introduce this. I'm going to click on that bucket. I'm going to select the corridor. And it's going to show me all my template drops within that corridor, which there's just the one. And you'll see why I'm kind of showing you this now. It's kind of setting me up for the future, the Road 2 class. Remember, we said that we can make all these changes to the entire corridor, which affects all the templates, which, we haven't really talked too much about that yet, but we're going to do a lot of that type thing here in the corridor objects. But one other thing that you could do in the corridor objects is you can replace a template. And so I just hit those little dot 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 at the end there, and I could path out to County Highway, select OK, select close, and you will now notice that we now have our ag wedge, and the ditch is just like we want it. We still have the problem of the solution here, trying to jump to the other side for some reason in solving that problem. I think I'm going to leave it like this for now so I don't spend too much time on this particular video, but I'll find out why it's doing that, and we'll come back in another video, the next video, and we'll talk about fixing this problem of that left template targeting the right side for some reason. But other than that, it looks great. That's the result that we're looking for right there. At least at this point, in the development of the 3D model.